think I should swap the conversations about action and resistance, because I believe that resistance mostly comes after we begin to take action, but it can start to rear its ugly head before we even take any action. So I think we should just get it out of the way now. Resistance, how to work with it and not resist it, because what you resist persists, as we have heard on the internet from the self-help gurus. So resistance is, we got to define it. Resistance is that feeling in your body. It's very different than the fear mindset of what if. Resistance is your body saying no. Your body saying, I don't want to, in some capacity. But you have to be able to define what the resistance is, what necessarily you are resisting. So let's pull this back to coming out of a crisis, as we do here. First caveat, this does not apply to when you are still deeply in the midst of a crisis, especially if it's a mental health one and there is something like depression involved, because a lot of the time resistance can be completely overwhelming, at least for me, paralyzing, and I don't know if these tips and tricks would really be enough to pull me out of that. So, firstly, when you are trying to start a new habit, start a new routine, start living in a different way, being more intentional about your life, you're going to have moments where you just don't want to, but you can't put your finger on why. And this is where locating the feeling in your body comes in. And it sounds a little woo-woo and it sounds a little therapy talkish, but if you can kind of shake it out and think, what is going on? Am I feeling tightness? Am I feeling nausea? Am I feeling heat? Am I feeling like clenching in my jaw? And you can kind of diagnose the bodily reaction to whatever you feel resistance towards. That first step that does apply to depression, inclusion of resistance, because that can be helpful. Figuring out where in your body you are holding what kind of tension. On my favorite app, the Michelle B. Intention app, there is a tool that actually walks you through defining what the color of your resistance would be and what the texture of your resistance would be, and like defining physical elements of this non-physical thing to kind of ground you and to give your nervous system a freaking break from just the I don't wanna. I also do want to preface this by saying I'm not immune to this. I literally just kicked my future self out the door. I said, screw you, just now, and didn't do the dishes that I just made because I felt resistant toward it and I didn't want to sit with it for even 1 second, and I didn't want to deal with it. And sometimes that does happen, but there are ways that we can mitigate that from happening, and there are ways that we can show up for ourselves and our future selves by kind of engineering our days and our moments and our friction points away from having too much of that resistance. So the worksheet goes in depth in this, ways you can do this with environment design, with two-door decisions, or two-way decision doors, I don't remember, but the premise is basically for any type of feeling of, I don't want to post, I don't want to go, I don't want to do it, I don't want to take care of myself in this very basic way. You want to diagnose it in a very curious way. You don't want to go at it with the attitude of, well, why am I feeling this way? Why? I should be feeling another way. I shouldn't be feeling this resistance. Because that's just going to get you into a self-shaming spiral, and we don't do that around here. First of all, we don't shame ourselves. But second of all, it's not going to allow you to move forward. And forward motion is the only way that we can increase that baseline, which is always what we are trying to do. So we can look at resistance in the present tense of the moment that it's occurring, and we can also look at it from the before tense, from before it happens, to try to, I said the word mitigate in this already, but to mitigate it from happening, you can visually, mentally, if you can't visualize, think through the process that you feel resistance toward. I get up every day and I feel so much resistance towards taking my meds. That is something that happens to me, to be quite vulnerable and honest. And I had to sit with myself and think, before that moment occurred, before that moment took over, the resistance takes over and you just go, I don't want to do it. And think, why? Why do I not want to take my meds? Because there's always a deeper reason when it comes to resistance. Fear can be just a really overthinky rumination loop. Resistance is a deep why. And overcoming that unknown and diving into that why can really undo the tangle that you might be feeling when resistance is coming up. So when I think I don't want to take my meds, it isn't that I don't want to swallow the pills or that I don't want to, I don't know, literally that's the act of doing it. It's that I don't want to see myself as a person who has to rely on a substance of some kind to get me through my days. And taking my medication is a reminder that I am sick in some capacity still, even though I am past the worst part of my crisis. I'm still taking medication to get through it. And that is the first layer of why. So the second layer of why is, okay, so why do you feel that you don't want to be a person who relies on this substance? Well, that is because it makes me feel weak. Like I'm not strong enough to do it on my own. That's the second why. If you ask yourself why again, if you can't tell, we're doing the 5 whys exercise. Well, why don't you want to feel weak? It's because being an independent, strong, motivated, self-assured, I don't know. I'm a confident person. I can do things on my own. I don't want to associate that with myself because of that value of being my own strong, independent person. And then, so why does helping yourself reduce your own strength and independence? Kind of bring it back to that first why. And that's when you can kind of go, maybe I'm just feeling resistance because this is going against my values, or it's going against who I think I am. So I want you, for this section, to take something that you feel resistant toward. Not fearful of, but resistant toward. And ask yourself why a couple of times. Maybe 5 times. and really dive into what is this resistance saying about me that I don't like, because I guarantee you that is the reason. And when you unpack that, you will feel so much relief and so much compassion for yourself. So that's your resistance exercise. More in the PDF down below.